Good evening. Outrage over COVID-19 lockdowns and a fateful meeting hundreds of miles away in another state. Tonight, the prosecution reveals to the public and private communications of 4 men who are all accused of plotting to kidnap and kill Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
Undercover FBI agents took the stand for the second day of testimony in this trial. In their testimony, we learned much more about a June 2020 meeting in Ohio where West Michigan's Adam Fox met Delaware's Barry Croft for the first time. Prosecutors say the group of people from across the country wanted to overthrow their state's government.
And tonight, News Channel 3's Mike Croft joining us live from the federal courthouse in Grand Rapids to tell us what the recordings reveal about the alleged plot to kill the governor. Mike.
A former FBI informant's recordings played in court here today capture Barry Croft and Adam Fox talking about kidnapping Governor Gretchen Whitmer back in June 2020. Croft is also heard talking about coordinating attack on the governor's cottage using explosives and destroying a communications tower. The suspect's attorney have said the undercover informants had steered them to the plot, but prosecutors say the 4 suspects had vowed to commit violence for quite some time. Prosecutors say audio recordings played in court today capture Barry Croft talking about killing police, hanging state governors, and encouraging people to take hostages. Prosecutors say Adam Fox, the accused mastermind of the kidnapping plots, was recorded at a June 2020 meeting in Ohio saying, quote, "We need to take this talk and turn it into action." His defense attorney says today it was just talk.
It's a lot of talk. It's a lot of talk. That's what you heard today.
Prosecutors say the recordings capture Croft discussing the possibility of using explosives to, quote, rain down fire on law enforcement, with a team standing by to abduct Governor Whitmer. In the recordings, prosecutors say Croft is overheard making explosives using pennies for shrapnel. Outside of court today, Croft's attorney declining to comment on the evidence presented today.
Give it some time. The case is young.
FBI agents testifying in the witness stand today. Law enforcement moved in to arrest the 4 suspects in the fall of 2020. Out of real concern, they may obtain explosives. Prosecutors also playing videos of Fox and Croft talking about preparing for a second civil war, months before meeting with federal informants.
Well, that's the government side of the story. You know, there's 2 sides to the case. We get our shot at it, and we'll have our day in court, and I look forward to getting all of that evidence out when the time comes.
Fox's attorney tonight sticking with that entrapment defense, arguing the FBI tricked all 4 defendants in this case. The trial will resume here in Grand Rapids on Monday when an FBI confidential informant named Mark is set to testify.
It's horrific. It's horrible. It's unacceptable. We don't accept it here. It's not something that people are going to commit and get away with.
Did Paul Washy get away with it the first time, though?
Was a Western Michigan University student's punishment for a sexual assault years ago so lenient it allowed him to offend again 4 years later? Tonight, that's the question we're asking the school. Only now does a more recent sex assault accusation against former WMU hockey captain Paul Washy have him facing criminal charges.
Tonight, News Channel 3's Maria Serrano is questioning whether WMU let Washy skate by when his first accuser came forward. Maria.
Erica and Andy, these documents show WMU began an investigation into Paul Washy for non-consensual contact in January of 2018. WMU found him responsible, but he was allowed to keep playing hockey at WMU. And years later, he even became a team captain. Through a Freedom of Information Act request, News Channel 3 uncovered that Paul Washy's first sexual assault accusation happened in August of 2017, 1 week before fall classes started. In January of 2018, his accuser came forward. By March, WMU had found Washy responsible. Can you tell me why the athletic department or WMU did not suspend him while the investigation was going on, but then also after WMU concluded that he was responsible and guilty?
Sure. So let me first of all say that the university is committed to maintaining a safe environment. It's certainly a top priority.
but Washi was allowed to keep playing for the Broncos hockey team, and years later, elevated to team captain. But if he violated the sexual conduct policy for WMU, why wasn't he kicked off the team or suspended?
You know, as I noted to you, Maria, the case was reviewed, all involved were interviewed, and ultimately the sanctions that were imposed are ones that the university found fit the violation.
WMU spokesperson Paula Davis maintains Washi's punishment was appropriate. That punishment, a 3-page double-spaced paper, an online sexual misconduct course, a meeting with former athletic director Kathy Beauregard, and a ban from contacting his accuser.
What would you tell victims that say there was no accountability from WMU's part? What would you tell them?
Yeah, there certainly was accountability.
Davis also says Washi was suspended for 2 games at the time. Washi has missed most of this hockey season and is now charged with sexually assaulting a second WMU student at an off-campus party in December. Is there any regret from the university at this point? Do you guys think you could have done more?
You know, as I said, we take the safety of our students, our entire campus community, very, very seriously. And in the case of this violation in 2018, the case was reviewed. The processes that we have laid out, we followed them. You can't predict the future, but you can hold people accountable for their misconduct, as is what occurred in the 2018 case.
I've been talking to Washi's victim in that 2018 case for almost 2 weeks now. She says she doesn't remember WMU offering to take her case to police. She thinks if WMU would have taken her case more seriously, there wouldn't be a second accuser.
It's a day that'll go down in history. On this day, 2 years ago, Governor Gretchen Whitmer appeared on your TV screens to announce the first confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Michigan.
2 years later, the state is still battling the coronavirus. News Channel 3's Amira Austin joining us live in studio with a reaction on how the community is feeling at this stage of the pandemic. Amira.
Good morning, Kirk and Laura. A day of reflection for sure. State data shows that since the pandemic started, there have been over 2 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 and over 32,000 deaths. Now, just 1 year ago on this date, we had over 600,000 confirmed cases and over 15,000 deaths. Now, we've come a long way these last 2 years with testing and vaccines, but health officials tell me we're not out of the woods yet. But I want to take a look back at some of those key moments. On March 17th, 2020, Michigan confirmed the first COVID-19 death in the state. Governor Whitmer issued a stay-at-home order days later on March 23rd, and it was lifted in June 2020. Now on December 13th, 2020, the first vaccine-filled trucks rolled out of Pfizer's plant here in Portage, delivering doses across the country. The next day, the state health department launched an online dashboard to track that vaccine distribution across the state. Now the latest state data shows that to date, 60% of Michiganders have been fully vaccinated to protect themselves against the virus. As cases are now declining and school mask mandates are being lifted, some people are feeling safe enough to remove those face coverings, but others not so much.
I still don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel, if I'm being honest. I don't feel like how things have been handled has really led to much of a change. Like, people are still dying every day.
I think that there's been, in the last 3 weeks, a feeling of relief that I am going to be able to get back to homeostasis, back to my healthy normal, and feel connected with more human beings.
Now coming up at 6:30, I'll tell you when health officials believe we could see another surge.